Welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast, where we interview some of the most interesting people that have said yes to opportunities in their life. We hope that through these stories, you can learn to create your own destiny by saying yes along the way. Join us as we explore the new series covering topics such as passion, integrity, and hard work. I'm your host, Jim Riley, and I hope you enjoy these interviews as much as I do. I believe that everyone has an important message worth hearing. This week, I interview Michele Molitor. She's the founder and CEO of Nectar Consulting, and she's also the co-author of the best-selling book, Breakthrough Healing. She's a speaker, author, executive coach, and a rapid transformational therapist. She's what you might call a rapid rewire expert. I really enjoyed talking to Michele about saying no with grace and grit, as well as the strength that you have within yourself and your own brains to enhance your living, your expectations of yourselves, how people think about you, and just how much power you have when you put your mind to something. As I say, the answer is yes, and I've lived that, believed that, and Michele's here to also teach you how to do the same with their own programs. I think it's a great conversation today with Michele, and I hope it serves as a wonderful reminder on how much power we have within ourselves to be everything that we want to be. I'm your host, Jim Riley, on the Answer is Yes podcast. Hello and welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast. Thanks for tuning in this week. We've got another very special guest. I love bringing new and exciting stories to the show, and that is no exception for today. And I've got Michele Molitor on the phone. How are you today, Michele?
I'm great, Jim. Thank you for having me.
I love in your press materials, it talks about the rapid rewire expertise that you can provide, because I think in this day and age we all want something rapidly, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Myself included. I'm super impatient.
Well, I don't know where all of our impatience started, but it's certainly the day and age that we live in now, and I'm excited to hear about the coaching that you do and the expertise that you bring to so many people in your current business and profession. But as people know that listen to my show, I like to find out where you came from and how you started in your career in the early business process. So maybe you can introduce yourself in terms of, where things started for you and some of your first jobs and a little bit of your career path.
Yeah, sure. So I've always been a bit of a late bloomer. And so I took the 5-year path in college, changed my major a couple of times, and only upon exiting university that I discovered that I could draw.
Uh-huh.
Like, wow, that's a pretty cool thing. Maybe I should do something with that, right? So I ultimately ended up going back to school and went to the Art Institute of Atlanta and got a degree in graphic design and became a graphic designer for the first 10 years of my career, and working in multimedia, which then led to the age of the internet and web development, which ended up moving me here from Atlanta to the San Francisco Bay Area. I was a creative director for a highfalutin web development company that was just about to IPO, Jim. Hurry, get your golden ticket. We're going to IPO. It's going to be so exciting.
Uh-huh.
And I moved here, and the week I started was the week we were going to IPO, was the week the market crashed back in 2000.
Ouch.
And so that was disappointing. I thought I was going to be a millionaire, but that hasn't quite happened yet. Any moment now, though. And so I kept working really hard for this company, and ultimately I got bullied out of my job by these two guys that I worked with that I had hired, actually, who really didn't like having a woman for a boss. And that was really, really devastating for me. My confidence was pretty much shattered. And so I discovered coaching to help me figure out what to do next. And in the process of being coached, realized my true calling and my passion. And so I went on to get trained and certified as a coach in a variety of different ways, and started my own business and have been doing it ever since. Right. 18 years now. And even along that path, I've always been a learning junkie, always trying to figure out how do we work better, smarter, more joyfully, more easily, more effortlessly, because I still had my own blocks and stuck spots that I was trying to overcome, to be a more effective coach, to be a better business owner, entrepreneur person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And several years ago now, I discovered the work of Marissa Peer, who's a world-renowned therapist, and did some work with her. And literally within a matter of weeks, the blocks that I had been trying to get out of my way for 20 plus years were gone, literally, like that. And it was so mind-blowing that when she started training people in her methodology called rapid transformational therapy, I was a hell yes. So since then, I've added a few more letters to my name, and been trained and certified as a rapid transformational therapist, and have combined it with my coaching and what I call my rapid rewiring breakthrough program. Mm-hmm. So it's a way of literally helping people rewire their brains, because I'm a neuroscience geek at heart. So you literally extracting old emotional charges and replacing them with new, powerful, empowering pathways in your brain for greater success and joy and health and happiness. So that's kind of it in a nutshell where we're at.
Well, what is that? What is that in layman's terms of rewiring your brain and your thought process? What would be a good example of maybe what somebody's going through and how you rewire that?
Yeah, sure. Well, one of the most common theme songs, as I like to say, you know, how we hear those songs as a kid and you can still think of the words today, mm-hmm. right? Something will trigger it, like, you know, the Kool-Aid guy or whatever that song or commercial was, right? So we hear things, we experience things as kids, and it creates an impression, it creates a decision point, and we carry that forward with us. And so many people that I've worked with have a belief about themselves of, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not something enough. I'm lacking. And because of that, it impacts their confidence, it impacts their self-esteem, their self-worth, and how they move through the world, right? And so when you think a thought, the more you think a thought, the more true it becomes for you. So if you've been telling yourself your whole life, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, who am I? I'm not pretty enough, I'm not, whatever it is, right? That's your reality. That's the lens you see the world through. And so this process that I work with people around literally gets in at a subconscious level to unearth the root cause of that belief, mm-hmm. the origination point of it. And we literally rewrite it, because your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined when you're in a state of hypnosis. So this is a process that I take people through. And in hypnosis, you're able to be very suggestible. So you're able to take on new thoughts, new beliefs much more easily than trying to get past your critical, judging, thinking mind, mm-hmm. right? So by doing this, we're able to instill this new belief of, I am enough. I do believe in myself. I am worthy. I am lovable. I am confident, etc. And through this process, my clients listen to a customized recording that I'm for them, and that repetition builds a new pathway, a new belief system that then becomes the go-to pathway in times of stress. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. I have a business coach I work with. His name is David Meltzer, and we've been together a couple years now. And we were just talking about your inner voice and the amount of time you spend with your inner voice saying things to yourself, and being able to curb that inner voice to a positive influence within yourself. So instead of saying I can't,
yes.
Internally, start saying I can, right? And I think that is along the same lines of what you're saying, is just kind of rewiring where our heads are at, because I don't think people realize how powerful their own thoughts and minds are.
Yes, they're extremely powerful. And so by telling yourself new things, I am enough versus I'm not good enough, then you start to create a new pathway. I always tell people, write I am enough, put it on your phone, put it on your mirror, put it on a sticky note, put it on your hand, write it and stick it in your wallet. But tell yourself over and over and over again, I am enough. I am enough. Of course I'm enough. I've always been enough. I always have been and I always will be. And the more you tell yourself that, the more you think that new thought, the more that neural pathway in your brain, those synaptic connections will become stronger and stronger. And the old belief literally will just kind of dissipate and disappear itself.
You've made a business out of this. I think you said 17 years you've been doing this?
18, yes.
18 years. How do you convince people that this really works? Because I'm sold. I believe in it. I've have a quote my entire life, and that is, what you believe is what you will achieve. And that was from Mark Victor Hansen in the mid 70s. I started saying
Yes.
in the mid 80s. But oftentimes people are so skeptical of the inner work that you can do with your mind, our writing down goals, our visions and dreams, and the power of that with consistency. And you've managed to make a business out of this. How do you convince people how important these exercises can be? Because clearly you've had some success with it.
Yeah, well, the proof is in the pudding, Jim. I can tell you about so many different clients that I've worked with who literally have been dealing with emotional, physical challenges for sometimes their whole lives. And in a 30 to 90 day program with me, they're able to eliminate them. So for example, I had one client who came to me and said, I want to grow my business. And every time I get to a certain level financially, I sabotage myself. And then I get this horrible bout of inflammatory bowel syndrome. I'm like, well, that sounds terrible. Would you like to get rid of that? She's like, yes. So we went through this process, and part of it is my clients get this customized recording, right? That they listen to every night as they go to sleep, because your subconscious is always listening and it absorbs in these new beliefs and behaviors, right? And so she listened to it every single day. And on day 22, because I tell them listen to it for at least 21 days, day 22, she wrote to me and she said, I've listened to my recording every single day. Today I had my biggest client meeting ever, and my body is completely on board. The fear response is gone. And when I wrote to her a month later to ask how she's doing and to have her write a testimonial, she literally said, what did we work on? Like had completely left her system. Mm-hmm. And she had been dealing with IBS for 15 years. And if anyone who's ever had that, it's like bloating and gas and diarrhea and all sorts of horrible things.
Yeah.
That no one wants to experience on a regular basis.
Right.
So whether it's, physical conditions like that, or anxiety, depression, chronic migraines, blown out adrenals, thyroid challenges, arthritis, psoriasis, so many different physical things are manifestations of the emotions that we haven't processed that we're carrying around, right? I had another client that I worked with, and he was super successful. He built a multi-million-dollar business by the time he was 27, but he literally almost killed himself working so hard. And he blew out his adrenals, and his thyroid was all discombobulated.
Wow.
And had been on doctor's care for 2.5 years, like changed his diet, has changed everything in his lifestyle because he literally had no energy to do anything. He had to shut down his business. It was pretty dramatic. And so when he came to me, he was probably 50% better than he was at the worst